migration pact authored by Donald Tusk's political family is a serious problem for the Polish Prime Minister. Knowing that the EU solution is unacceptable to Poles, the head of government jumped out of the blue and announced that the migration pact no longer applies to Poland because such a decision has been made. As I said, Poland will not accept migrants under the migration pact, nor will Poland pay for it. That's the decision. We act, we don't talk. The Prime Minister's euphoria was carried further into the world by Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski, who also puffed out his chest for the alleged success. The European Commission has confirmed Poland's exemption from migrant relocation. One would like to say, bravo government, but as is usually the case, it's not that simple. In this case, the problem is that both Poland's Prime Minister and the head of diplomacy are lying, as noted by Debunking, a website that verifies politicians' statements. The European Commission has not made such a decision. As EU Migration Commissioner Magnus Brunner explained, Poland may ask the Council for a total or partial exemption from the solidarity obligation, and the Council will decide on this matter. The Commissioner did not say that a decision had already been made to exempt Poland from contributing to the solidarity pool. Therefore, we rate Donald Tusk's statement as false. To avoid empty words, let's listen to the words of EU Commissioner for Migration, Magnus Brunner. And with our decision today, Poland can ask the Council for a total or partial exemption from the solidarity obligation, and the Council will decide on that matter. This means that the decision to exempt Poland has not yet been made, and the Prime Minister clearly wrote something completely different. That is, he lied. What is more, Poland has yet to submit a humble request. Despite the revelation of this simple lie, the government continues to push this narrative. The European Commission has announced that several countries, including Poland, due to recent years in the acceptance of hundreds of thousands of migrants, will be exempt from relocation. That is, exempt from this part of the migration pact. But literally seconds later, Minister Siemoniak realized what he had said and remembered that the lie had already been debunked, admitting that the Commission had not yet made this decision. The Polish Ministry of Internal Affairs and Administration has sent the relevant application to the European Commission, and I am convinced, following the statements of Commissioner Magnus Brunner, who is responsible for migration issues, that such consent will be granted. So the minister admits that this decision is yet to be made, and Prime Minister Tusk lied. But even if Tomasz Siemoniak's words come true, the matter will not end there. Poland may be exempted from the obligation to accept migrants for only 1 year. This means that every 12 months, we would have to humbly ask to be exempted from the pact. And this cannot go on indefinitely. The postponement and rolling over of these decisions by the European Commission can only be to Donald Tusk's advantage, so that he can win the elections in 2027, and so that the migration pact can then be fully implemented in Poland, because by then, Poland will no longer have any arguments for being excluded from this mechanism. So Donald Tusk, as he usually does, is pursuing a two-pronged policy. On the one hand, there are bold declarations, and on the other, everyday reality is quite different from the rhetoric. For months, the government did nothing to stop the transfer of illegal migrants from Germany to Poland. The issue was raised by the border defense movement, which forced the state to take some action. But now, as we hear, when the issue is no longer so prominent in the media, the old ways are slowly returning.
Donald Tusk w tej chwili z panem
Donald Tusk and Minister Kierwiński are currently removing some of the border posts from the Polish-German border, thus deceiving Poles into believing that the border is protected. We are already putting our patrols there. As if in punishment for Robert Bąkiewicz guarding the integrity of our borders and condemning the state's passivity, he has now become one of the main opponents of the government. He is constantly being summoned to the prosecutor's office, where he is presented with new charges. The prosecutor announced to the suspect a decision to add 2 more crimes to the charges. Robert Bąkiewicz is prohibited, among other things, from approaching the Polish-German border within a kilometer. How is this supposed to improve the situation at the border? No one knows.
prokuratura utrudnia
The
postępowanie.
prosecutor's office is obstructing the proceedings of my attorneys. For example, as was the case recently during the interrogation of a witness, when my attorneys were notified the day before that they were to appear at the interrogation the following day, preventing them from accessing the evidence. Donald Tusk's previous government fell in 2015, partly due to illegal migration. Having learned from those mistakes, the Polish prime minister now declares his willingness to guard the borders. However, when it comes down to it, as usual, his attachment to the EU elites, who have long since drawn up their immigration plan, comes to the fore. The new American ambassador
Dzień dobry, cześć. I'm Tom Rose.
greets Poles warmly and talks about his mission entrusted to him by Donald Trump, which he has only recently begun in our country.
Come on in.
Tom Rose speaks with the utmost respect about Poland and Polish people, about our history and the Polish-American alliance.
One of America's greatest strengths are our friends and allies around the world. But among them all, Poland stands apart. Because Poland's more than just an ally. Poland is family. Our two great nations are bound together in a shared faith and value system, our commitment to defend our freedoms, whatever the cost.
Tom Rose is an Orthodox Jew who adheres to conservative values. He prioritizes family, security, and the economy, everything Donald Trump stands for. A businessman, journalist, and more recently a diplomat, he emphasizes his Polish roots.
My grandparents, all four of them, were either born right here in Poland or as small children to penniless immigrant parents who had just arrived in America from Poland.
Tom Rose emphasizes that he has visited Poland many times and is delighted with the beauty of our country.
Jak dotąd mamy dobre i przede wszystkim
So far, we have had a good and, above all, a promising start with Ambassador Tom Rose. This rather emphasizes what was already known, that he is Donald Trump's excellent choice for ambassador. Two of his main qualities that should be highlighted are first, that he is loyal to Trump, to his own president, and second, that he is also a conservative, which means he is in line with the views and program of his own administration. Tom Rose, like Donald Trump, considers Poland a key ally of America.
That's why President Trump loves Poland so much, and the Polish people, because he knows your history and your values.
The new American ambassador also stands up for freedom of speech. Among other things, he strongly condemned the takeover of public media by Donald Tusk's powerful people and the December 13th coalition. I am curious as to how the New York Times, which spent 8 years inveighing against the threats to democracy posed by Law and Justice's alleged control of the media, will find a way to spin this grotesque act as yet another move to restore democracy in Donald Tusk's Poland. Tom Rose has spoken several times about the rule of law in Poland, about the use of the media, the use of the courts against political opponents, that is, now against the Polish right wing by the coalition. But he has also spoken about freedom of speech, because Tom Rose, as a journalist, is a very freedom-loving person, meaning that the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution about freedom of speech is very close to his heart. Rose was a guest at the Polish-American Forum in Washington, D.C., organized by TV Republica in early September. We all had the opportunity to hear how beautifully he speaks about Poland. The new ambassador not only talks about the values he believes in, but also sets a beautiful example himself. Recently, on November 11th, during the national holiday in Poland.
Now this is what I call patriotism. Today, thousands of Poles are coming out. They're showing their love, respect, and patriotism for their country.
Podobnie jak prezydent Trump,
Like President Trump, he considers Poland to be one of the most important allies of the United States, and Poles to be the friendliest people who best understand the United States. And now, the fact that he used the Independence March to present himself to all of us is a very nice gesture on the part of the new ambassador.
Can enjoy growing prosperity.
An ambassador who wants to get to know our country even
I
better.
can't wait to get out and meet all of you. Travel this historic and beautiful country and experience firsthand the spirit and strength that makes Poland a nation loved by my president and by me. Razem jesteśmy silniejsi.
And with such support from the new ambassador, the Polish-American alliance is growing stronger. It was the longest U.S. government shutdown in history. 43 days of chaos, no funding for thousands of government employees, and losses for the U.S. economy. Finally, after significant concessions from both sides of the dispute, the Congress passed a bill ending the shutdown. Chaos at airports, delays in salary payments for government employees, and queues for free food. This is the result of more than a month of government shutdown after the previous budget bill expired on the 1st of October. In the Senate, the new bill needed at least 60 votes in favor. The Republicans had 53. The Democrats rejected 14 different versions of the new bill.
We don't like being pawns. We don't like, and this is including myself, we don't like to be called the swamp or to be used in anyone's political games, no matter what side you're on. Because I want people to know how much the federal government impacts lives. We impact so many lives, but you just don't see it. It's like unsung heroes.
The vast majority of government employees were not paid, from social services, health services, air traffic controllers to federal agents. The conflict was caused by two issues that were not included in the new budget. The first was the end of health insurance subsidies, introduced after the pandemic in 2021. The second was the reform of food aid funding.
Politics always suck, you know, and there's two sides to every story. So I hope that there's a meeting of the minds. I mean, I have my point of view on that, but I wish we could take it out and just get everybody back to work and get everybody paid like everybody else in the country wants to get on with it, right?
Ultimately, Republicans agreed to maintain food aid funding unchanged, and the issue of health insurance is to be discussed in the coming weeks. President Biden's 2021 bill, which was intended to provide support during the post-pandemic recovery period, generates annual costs of $35 billion.
You could argue that while the Democrats didn't get the thing that they were putting at the top of their wish list for the shutdown, they didn't get that. They did get other things. But this is where there's the difference between accomplishment and narrative. At this moment, the narrative is running that Democrats folded and therefore they lost the shutdown.
Donald Trump warned both sides of the dispute about the consequences of a prolonged shutdown. The ratings of the Republicans who are in power began to plummet. Hence, after the compromise was voted on, the bill was sent to the Oval Office on an express basis.
Over the past 7 weeks, the Democrats' shutdown has inflicted massive harm. They caused 20,000 flights to be canceled or delayed. They departed so many times, so late. People were hurt so badly. Nobody's ever seen anything like this one. This was a no-brainer. This was an easy extension. But they didn't want to do it the easy way. They had to do it the hard way, and they look very bad, the Democrats do.
Democrats counter that this is not the end, but the beginning of the fight for changes in the future budget bill. This could mean that if no agreement is reached in Congress in December, the U.S. will face another shutdown after the new year.